it was just two screens, and now it's like, oh, I got backgrounds and shit. One of the episodes I had stuff, one of the solo ones I did had stuff like pop up on the screen, and there were sound effects, and I'm like, nope, that was too much.
Wow.
It was too much.
Did a lot of work.
Oh my god, It was way too much. Hey everybody.
Oh man.
Welcome to Conversation Piece.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Janchi Show. It's your boys, KJ, Nathan, and Patrick. I don't know why I just introduced myself last, but I'm okay with that. And this is a show where we talk about being Korean adoptees, and we celebrate that, and we talk about the joyous stuff and the not so joyous stuff and everything in between there. And it's a lot of fun. Fellas, how you doing? Was that a good intro?
Sure.
That was chill energy for a Thursday night.
All right, cool.
Given the state of the world, I think that's exactly where we need to be. Also,
right,
KJ, Nathan, Patrick is the alphabetical order, so that's why I do it.
I did that unintentionally.
So
Unintentional.
yeah, it's not because I think of you last. It's because it's alphabetical.
I like that. I'm used to being in the front of the alphabet because my last name
Because of your
starts
last
with an A.
name. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what,
I mean,
everyone.
we could also go with
for.
seniority and just
Whoa.
say my name all the time.
You
first.
came in
Nathan,
so hot right
I'm
there.
going to need you to take like 5 steps back from the microphone, sir. That was a lot.
Nathan put his mic inside of his mouth.
Without a pop filter, too. It was honestly
Yeah,
pretty
where'd your pop
disgusting.
filter go?
He was
Yeah,
like,
it's
is
right
this even
here.
doing anything?
I didn't think it was doing anything. There, is that better?
I mean, sort of. It's not.
I have
It
I have a
reduces
new.
those pops.
I have
100%.
a new orientation for my microphone. So, trying it like as you can see coming in from the side. So
From the side.
yeah,
All right.
Great.
great.
Great episode.
job.
We're going to go to a
Good job,
snack
guys.
now. And
All right, let's go.
All right. And we're going to a food.
Nathan, what does Janchi mean? And why do we call ourselves a Janchi Show?
Janchi, Janchi. I hope you guys see that. I mean, technically, it's on the written podcast episode, but it's Janchi means to feast and celebrate and banquet, and that's what we're doing. So we are feasting and celebrating and just enjoying our time together as Korean adoptees and listening to stories and intersectionalities and everything that means to be Korean or American or neither.
Or all of
How's that?
them.
Or
Or all
And
of it.
also, we eat a Korean food or drink item at the end of the
That's
show.
true.
Mhm.
Hence the feasting
Hence
Yeah,
the
and the banqueting.
And we should have some new ones because I did send you guys still a bag of stuff. So I think we have.
I still got some stuff in here.
We got some new stuff to try out. So
Cool.
Dopey dope.
yeah,
Dopey dope. We're coming in a little low energy on a Thursday night.
You know
I'm gonna
what?
be honest,
Honestly,
I forgot that we were recording, so I'm
it's
glad to be here.
It's low energy because we've probably forgotten how to do a solo because the last time we did a
true.
solo was like 3 months ago.
It was a while ago. Was
The
it 3
world was
months
a
ago?
hotter place. No, it wasn't. It wasn't 3 months ago.
it was
but-
last month.
Cool. So Patrick, when we were in LA, however long ago that was, I think it was when we were in LA. Honestly, it could have just been after. It was a private conversation, but you were talking about how I think you and I were talking about the idea of Asian American and being an opt-in identity, which is timely since we just released our live episode. But you were talking about how you don't identify necessarily so much as like a Korean adoptee per se, as like an Asian adoptee, and just kind of like how that has really like shaping where you find yourself right now. And I want to get into that, but will you lead up to that by kind of giving your take on why Asian American is an opt-in identity?
Sure. So I think that if you go back and listen to, actually, no, you wouldn't get this if you listened to the live episode, but
Because we didn't record that part.
because we didn't record Jason
weren't
Chu's
talking.
lecture part. But I think that Jason Chu, who was at Beta LA and gave a little presentation kind of about the history of Asian America, talked about Asian American being an opt-in identity, something that you have to choose to identify as. And I think it really resonated with, well, at least KJ and I, because for me, at least, it's part of like really understanding the roots of Asian America and understanding like the history and everything that goes into and like where that comes from. And for me, in terms of like identity formation and how I've found myself coming to terms with my identity and self-racializing as Asian, as American, as Asian, as Korean, or whatever it might be. Um, self-racializing as American. What is wrong with me?
Well,
I
America's
just
not a race, so it's fine.
yeah, I know. That's why I was saying I was just like, what is going on in my brain? I just see it as an opt-in identity because like I have to like I literally am choosing it because for so long, for 30 years, like I rejected that part of my identity. And so as a Korean, ethnically, like I always will be and always am Korean. And even though I didn't maybe necessarily identify as that, like there is no mistaking, there is no denying that, even though like I can reject it as growing up, even though like for a long time I can like deny it to myself. There is no denying literally in my DNA. I am
You
Korean.
can take the boy out of Korea, but you can't take the Korean out of his blood.
Exactly.
So,
but as an Asian American, as an Asian person, like that is something that I've had to actively choose and reclaim. And you know, like race as like a social construct and as a concept, just understanding what that means for me. I've decided like as I've gone over the last 3 years in this journey that that's something that it just makes sense to me as being something that I choose and I want to choose. Not only that I choose like because it feels like I'm supposed to, but because I actively want to do so.
yeah. Right
Does
on.
that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Nathan, where do you fall on the Asian American thing?
Sure. I mean, I think going in the topic of reclaiming it or identifying more as it, I think for sure it started, like I said, I think on one of our last episodes in California, where I was more surrounded by Asians, and so the visual environment of having more friends that were Asian and going to more restaurants that were Asian, and then eventually, of course, meeting my wife and marrying, an Asian who's half Japanese, half Chinese, and kind of being involved in her culture and just knowing more about it, it made me know more about myself. And then while I was in Los Angeles, I saw more Korean things, more adoptee groups that were gathering. And again, that kind of immersed myself into it. And I think all of that and combined with, eventually having kids too, that my my household is 100% Asian and or Asian American, and so it's there's no denying that. Whereas before, I was, when I was being raised, it was myself and my sister and my parents, and so it was a 50-50 split at that point. So, and then of course my sister moved out to college, so I think at that time it was definitely different, where I didn't really identify with it because I didn't have the visuals. I didn't have the reminders every day that I am Korean, and I think maybe that's why I rejected it so often too, is because everything that I saw was not Korean unless I was looking in the mirror.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've not thought about, I mean, like I think about your house being all Asian people, but like I've not thought about like the power of that constant visual reminder versus when like even now my house is split 50-50. Growing up when it was me and my sister and my parents, our house was split 50-50. And like as we've often said on the show, American just defaults to whiteness, and so it is so easy to just be like, I don't know. I mean, like, unless you're bringing your ethnicity and that ethnic culture to the forefront, you're just gonna default to whatever white American looks like at the time. Um, like it's so much work to actively like put yourself forth, and then when you definitely don't know that because adoption, you're just like, man, there's a lot.
This is a lot.
So yeah.
Mhm.
True.
Yeah, I remember distinctly choosing it after reading The Making of Asian America. And uh, growing up, I was always surrounded by a very global mindset. Part of that was just like the desire of my church to be mission minded and like be internationally missionally minded, which for all of its optics, what I most appreciate about it is that like for me, I was just always thinking about like there's so much more to the world than just what I'm experiencing. And I really loved that America is this melting pot slash tossed salad slash now I'm back to melting pot. Okay, so actually this is a fun side conversation is uh growing up, I always heard America is a melting pot, all these different people coming together and becoming quote American. Then I was like, well, but that doesn't like really do it justice because actually like people come here, but they still bring all their culture and they like try to do their things. And so it's like a tossed salad. Like, there's like,
Right.
you've got your lettuce, you got your tomato, you've got your feta cheese, maybe you've got your cucumber, you've got your dressing, like whatever. But now I'm like, oh, it kind of is a melting pot and not in a great way. I wish it was actually more like a tossed salad.
Right.
Because we like so many immigrants have to assimilate to survive. So many, immigrants just feel like they have to deny parts of who they are so that they can just be out here, and so,
And you
yeah,
could
that's like,
choose to eat just a crouton if you wanted to, but with a melting pot, you wouldn't because it blended together.
it's all sludge.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
yeah. So yeah, anyways, but because of that upbringing, I just felt like very aware of like there's so much like the world just seemed so exciting, so like full of different people to meet, different things to explore basically. And so my being Korean, I was like, oh, that's just a fun part of it. And so even though I didn't know that much, I was like, yeah, it's just part of, the world. But then when I learned about Yuri Kochiyama and hearing Asian American as a political identity first, as like a way for um, marginalized communities from the Asian continent to come together and have more say in the political spectrum, I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense to me because in some ways, even with our podcast, that's what we're trying to do now. Even with all the stuff that we have seen in the past 3 years, and as it comes around again in light of everything that's going on in the world today, the idea is like being able to band together for the common good
Right.
is continually more important. And just like it was in the 60s, it's that way today. That marginalized communities need to come together for greater voice, greater say in political kind of legal ramification ways that then trickle down into how we live our daily lives. And so I think that's really important. And when I understood that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I don't have to gatekeep myself and be like, oh, I'm not a real Asian American because like that was always our term. There's no reclamation that needs to happen. Like that was always, it was just it's a choice that we make. So yeah.
I always thought, with the term Asian American too, is that it did mean a blending and not necessarily a stronger concentration of one or the other. And so that you really didn't have to know everything about America and you didn't have to know everything about Asian culture. It was more of a combination of the two. So you could be fine with knowing, how to say a few words or eat, you've had a few dishes here and there, but it wasn't like, it identified me more as the blending of the two. And I always felt okay with that. I don't know. What about you guys? Did you not want to feel like more than one or the other? I remember back in the day too. Also, there was a photography project that I volunteered for, where they had a Korean flag and an American flag, and you were supposed to stand in a percentage of where you wanted to, either more on one side or more on the other side, or right, dab in the middle. So, and that helped represent what you felt. But what about you guys? Did you feel like you were right in the middle, or more on one side or the other?
Um.
And has that changed?
Uh. So. Okay, so I have two answers for this question. So when I was growing up, I obviously felt way more American because I didn't want to be Asian, and
Right.
I was in complete rejection of that. I was in DC the other weekend, and somebody asked me how I defined Asian American because we've been talking about how I identified, and I said that I identified more as an Asian American adoptee than I really did as a Korean American adoptee. And they asked me how I defined Asian American, and I said I actually took a beat because I was like, oh, I haven't really thought about what that definition would be. And after I thought about it, I said that I think I define Asian American for myself as a term, as resistance specifically. And I define it as resistance because for me, I've had to figure out what it means to be Asian American. And I don't really think of it as a blend between being Asian and being American. I think of it more as a resisting of any conventional notion of what it means to be either of those two things. I also think about it in the historical context of where it came from, like you just talked about, as a political term in the 60s. And I think it's really important to remember that context when, for me at least, when thinking about Asian America or Asian American, because I don't think that, because the reason that it was created was specifically as a term for us to bring together a bunch of different diasporic communities to have solidarity in a
political sense.
In a political sense, for us to be able to have a coalition of voices to be able to support the Black Panther Party and civil rights movement specifically. And it wasn't so that we would generalize all the different Asian diasporas that came under the term. It was specifically to highlight all the different communities and peoples that make up Asians that lived in America. And I think that's the beauty of it, is it really like the tossed salad metaphor, like it highlights the different parts that make up the salad specifically. And I think it really resists the notion of just the blending or just like this, like a generalization. And for me, I define it as resistance because like I like the fact that I'm trying to be specific as possible while at the same time reject the notion that I can only be one specific thing. And that sounds super contradictory. Like I can only be like defined as a Korean American adoptee. Like, and I can only operate in that one space. Like, I guess is how I think about it a little bit. And that's why I more so identify as Asian American, because I don't connect as much culturally, even though ethnically I am Korean. Like there is some barrier to culture for me that I just cannot cross. There is some chasm that every time I try to leap it, I just can't reach the other side. It makes me really sad, especially as I approach parenthood. Like that every time, and the fact that we've been doing the show for 3 years, like that's what makes it even sadder for me, is that every time I just fall short for whatever reason. And I think, especially coming back from Korea, that's what's really pushed me in this direction of like really thinking about my identity as being Asian American versus specifically Korean American, even though I know ethnically I am Korean. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No,
that's kind of where
I think
I'm
that totally makes
falling
sense
at.
because so I think, to your point, Nathan, I think the photo idea is cool, and it also does kind of set up a false dichotomy of like you have to of Koreanness and Americanness being on a spectrum when actually you can be 100% Korean and 100% American. And if your mental model can't sustain that, then maybe you should update your mental model. Now, like if you are from Korea, like the Republic of Korea, then I think there's like oh yeah, like, but then it's just like that's two totally different things, So it's like maybe it's like, oh yeah, you just stand on a Korean flag or stand on an American flag wearing a hanbok, or you're stand on a American flag, with wearing whatever thing, or like, however that looks. But to your point, Patrick, I think like I like the idea of resistance as like Asian American. I also think of it as like empathy, like at its to
Oh,
me
yeah, sure.
at its core. I think it's like a bunch of political activists who were Asian American, are Asian American. They didn't stop being Asian American. Saw the needs of a lot of communities, and they're like, I realize that we are different, and I have empathy for your situation, and
Mhm.
for the betterment of many communities, let's band together and make this happen. And I think that is really important to be like, actually. And I think even like it in your space, Patrick, to be like, yeah, I don't feel super Korean, so maybe if you walk into super Korean, like ethnically Korean spaces, then you'd be like, oh yeah, this isn't my game. And then if you were super Korean and then walked into like super Chinese spaces, they'd be like, what are you doing here? But
Sure.
but I think like if you're like, no, I'm Asian American, and then you hang out with other Asian Americans, you're like, yeah, I don't need to know the language. I just know that I like this food, and I know that like this is how we're gonna be. And maybe we grew up in
Right.
LA or in Indy, and like we listen to the same punk bands or whatever. We like, you know what I mean? Like it can be so much more than that, because you actually choose to come together as a point of empathy, as opposed to be like ethnically guarded
Right.
in your cultures.
Well, and I do want to say I like what you said before, that it's not necessarily a reclamation. It's like a choosing. Like I'm claiming it specifically. Like I made the decision to claim it and choose it instead of like I had to reclaim it. I also just wanted to make clear that like this is my definition for it, and I don't want to invalidate anybody else's definition of what it means to be Asian American or ethnically American, whatever it is that whatever ethnicity that you hail from. Like this is how I have just navigated my own identity, for sure. Like I definitely don't want people to be like, oh well, I don't identify as Asian American. I don't define it that way. That's totally okay. Like that is just the way that I'm doing it.
That's fine. No, it's definitely a little different than the way I defined it, as I said.
I
blending,
just wanted,
and I'm not taking any offense to your definition.
Well, you should, Nathan. Get angry.
No. I was just saying for anybody out there,
for anybody else listening, totally. And I hope they feel that same way about what I said. Is that I think of it as that blending, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is correct for anybody else. So. I mean, it's
but
just
my statement is a blanket statement, and I expect all of you to follow mine. So please do that, or stop listening to the show.
And we got to have one blanket statement.
Hot take. I'm always right.
But it's interesting that mine's including, like you said, mine was of blending, so it's including both cultures, whereas yours is the opposite in a way of not including certain things from each one. So. Like you said, it's the absence of certain things. Then I'm trying to like wrap my head around that one as well, because I feel like that's both. Like that is the definition is when you have something, you also don't have something too. So in a way, is that kind of like yin and yang, right? Where we're like, so I don't know. I'm trying to think about that.
I don't think of identity as like a zero-sum game.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you said too, 100% of one and 100% of other is completely possible. I agree with that as well. I mean, to thinking outside of the limitations of a circle of including everything.
But I think
things
this
change too. The box gets bigger.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that this like just generally leads us to a conversation around allyship and what that looks like, because like this, like the Asian Americanness, I think is a lot of people across lots of timelines, but like generally since the mid 1800s, I guess, since the 19th century, have come over from Asia, and they, for lots of different reasons, were brought over here, came over here with their own baggage from their own motherlands, but like we're here now. And I think that that's the blending and the letting go is like, I think there's a world where um if you're, I guess one example for me is like if you were super Korean, you might not be big fans of like Japanese people because of like the history of Korea and Japan. However, if you're both Asian American, maybe you should just like leave that alone because you were probably both born here and you've got other things to worry about. You know what I mean? Like I think that's like kind of the letting go of it is like leave your country of origin, your genetic, ethnic, whatever homeland, however many generations back, like leave some of that stuff at the border because we're here and we have lives to lead and we need to proceed with empathy and do more for our communities, and be more inclusive and be having broader conversations around what a Asian American looks like. It is not lost on me that we're three Korean dudes, aka three East Asian dudes talking about Asian American, when like a lot of the other continent probably doesn't really feel that they belong in Asian America, and a lot of America probably doesn't feel like they would label them as Asian American. So,
Right. Well, like the way the definition came about in the first place has changed, and like the history is either lost or erased or purposely construed, but like skewed and hidden. And for me, like I like what you said. Like for some people, as you immigrate here, some stuff you might feel forced to leave at the door, and like as you find yourself coming into a new country, potentially a new identity, and trying to figure out and navigate your way through that. And for me, I think what I've really been struggling with is as I've tried to figure out who I am and like feeling like I found acceptance of who I am. Like I've really, like I think the thing that I've really been like grappling with is like forcing myself to maybe not love Korean culture or Korea in any particular way, but not connecting with it. And then two, feeling a lot of like envy towards specifically other Korean adoptees who just do it so easily. Like the food and like cook it or like go after the language or just do anything culturally, celebrate the holidays, like literally just anybody. And it's just like, I see that and it's like, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing that and I just can't. And I hate to even say I can't do it because for whatever reason, like it feels like maybe I'm not trying enough or trying hard enough. And again, like I think I'm just thinking a lot about this because I'm approaching parenthood and like I'm really grappling with like I'm not going to have any of this for my kid and like I'm really worried about that. And like I don't know, I just like really that's really what's been going through my mind a lot lately. And I think again I talk about it being forced because like it feels like because I'm ethnically Korean I have to do it. Like there is no choice. Being Asian American, again, is the choice I get to make. And the stuff that I've done, while this podcast has been very Korean adoptee focused and focused on Korean culture, a lot of the other things I've done outside of the show has been, for all intents and purposes, very Pan-Asian focused, or maybe East Asian. I'll say East Asian, not specifically Pan-Asian, but broadly more East Asian focused. And so it hasn't really been so focused on Korean stuff. And I've been exposed to more just other Asian things. And it hasn't even been like cultural things. It's just been community. And so like when I think about that identity, when I think about choosing Asian America, I'm really thinking about community too. And when I talk about resisting, I think it's resisting this idea that I have to be forced into the ethnic, cultural aspect of it. And again, I just want to be clear. I don't have any issues with anybody who is who loves Korean culture and can do that. Again, that's the envy part of it. And like, I used to think it was jealousy, and I had a conversation with my sister, and she was like, "It's not. I don't think it's jealousy. I think it's envy." And I was like, oh, "Okay, I like the language there. I think you're right. I think I'm just very envious of that fact, and I want to like let go of that feeling, but I also have to name it because that's just really what I've been struggling with. I think over the last 3 years of doing the podcast, like truly, like just having these conversations and like then watching our friends that we meet through the show go off and do these amazing things and like really connect.
Like half of them like, go back to Korea.
Yeah. And then the way that they connect with it, I'm just like, again, I think especially the second trip just like really opened my eyes in a different way.
Yeah.
To how I've really been struggling with that. And so I know other people struggle with it in similar or different ways. It's just something that I've just really become more cognizant of in myself.
I think that's completely okay. Not to feel forced to do anything Korean. I think I stand by your decisions to not have to do those things, and I wish for you to not feel guilty or envious about those things either, because I think of it as in both realms, not just Korean, but think of American stuff. Like, I don't necessarily fly an American flag outside of my house around July 4th. Does that make me less American? Or, just the same thing. I'm not putting a Korean flag out there around, Seoul or something. Yeah. Or, so those are the things that I don't do because other people may do, but I feel okay with that because it's my decision. In the regards of like same thing, I wouldn't, I don't go all out with putting up 1 million Christmas decorations, although some people might, I mean, there's it's hard to sometimes compare with other people in similar categories or similar, identities and things too. But as far as also the specifically Korean things and Asian American things, I also think that because Asian America, for me at least, is like a broad spectrum of a lot of different things. It's easier to be involved in those things because there's a lot more to be involved in, and I like that. I like the larger pool of things to pick from to discover, because that's for me. That's what I like, is discovering new things. And so I pick from all of like you said, Pan Asian or East Asian kinds of things, because if I was just picking from Korean things all the time, then I don't know. I that would probably be fine too for some, but
I'd get a little tired of bibimbap.
Yeah, for I mean, again, it's also environmental. I don't really have access to a ton of Korean things. I mean, there are a few Korean restaurants, and there's of course a couple H Marts, but I mean, I'm not diving into that side of things. Yes, I could probably read only about Korean culture or history and things like that too. But again, like I said, I like to hear about it all. So just like I like buffets, right? I like a little variety.
A little bit of everything.
Nathan's a sucker for a sampler pack.
I am. I love the sampler pack. So for me, that's why I choose to do more Asian American, things, and try to involve different cultures. And because again, my wife is half Japanese, half Chinese, I feel a little obligated, like you said, as well, to kind of learn about them all also, because my kids are going to be all three. So I want to know a little bit about China, a little more about Japan and Korea and things like that. So, and I want to remind them that they are as well. And for you later, when you do have, your first child, that I think it's going to come naturally. Don't feel forced that you have to teach them or celebrate things with them, because I don't. I let them dictate in a way what they want to learn about. Sometimes they'll ask us questions about things. I mean, the fact that they're doing Taekwondo was kind of, that's Korean, but I mean, I would have been fine if they wanted to do judo, or if they wanted to do, karate or something like that. I mean, it was
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right. So I let them kind of dictate the direction that they're going in, what they want to discover. And they do ask questions, and they I think it'll just come naturally as you start developing a routine in your own family and traditions and things like that. If you don't celebrate, Chuseok every day, then or every year, then
Every
that's
day.
every day.
I definitely know I'm doing it wrong.
Is Chuseok.
So, but I think that's okay because, I definitely don't celebrate other holidays every year the same way. So,
Right. Well, I appreciate that.
I think you guys are doing a good job. So,
I appreciate that.
You guys being Patrick and Emily, me.
Patrick and Emily.
Oh, okay.
Not,
I didn't know if he was
you
talking
have-
about you too.
No, KJ, you have you've been discovering, through music. I'm actually curious. Have you had any recent? I know this is kind of maybe a little tangent. Have you had any more recent inspirations to do more music, like in Korean?
No, I kind of feel like not dissimilar from Patrick. Not that like I'm not engaging with Korean culture. I think I'm just like I've like capped. I'm at capacity. And I realize like I love learning Korean language, but that's because I love learning all languages. Like I'm just as excited to learn Korean as I am Spanish. I'm just as sad if I hear a conversation in Spanish, if I don't understand it fully, as I am if I don't understand it. Like it doesn't matter. It's just all languages. It could be Brazilian, it could be, well, I guess that's Portuguese, but specifically, Portuguese, it could be French, it could be Russian or Romanian or any of those things. I would just be like, I just love learning languages. And I think that realizing that for me, I think I used to say either out loud or to myself, oh, well, of course, the language because Korean. But I think that that's actually not that true. And that, like, I like food, but in the same way, like, I just like all food. And when we cook in our home, it's a lot of Mexican food or I don't know. I guess what I'd broadly term it as white people food because it's like white people's take on there's like barbecue, which I guess is white people food. I don't know. Like Texas or whatever. There's barbecue, there's like Mexican food, there's all these kinds of things, right? But like when I had the opportunity to cook, and we were like, oh, we've got some leftover turkey. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go grab Amsam and so cute. Man, I expected to see a kid back there. I did not expect the kid to be that cute.
Nathan, I muted you.
All glammed
I muted
up,
you, Nathan.
So that was cool.
Unmute yourself.
So what was I saying?
Okay,
when I had the
thank you.
opportunity to
Sorry.
cook and craft
Sorry.
a meal. It's very cute. So we had like leftover turkey. The first thing I grabbed were amsam spicy bulgogi, and then I had like sriracha on hand. I had gochugaru pepper flakes. I had rice. I had sesame oil. Like, so I just was like, but then I also did like, oh, you know what LA would do if this was an LA street taco? So you'd have like some quick kimchi slaw, and then like jalapenos. And so like I made like a type of East Asian street taco type
Fusion.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Fusion.
But you know what I mean? Like those are the things that like, so I gravitate towards Korean food because it gives me new flavors, new ideas to practice making that I typically don't get to make all that often. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's what I mean where I'm like, I've kind of capped on the Koreanness of it. And I'm just like, for the most part, I'm good with where I'm at. And I think like you, Patrick, I have to check myself from being envious of people who are more fluent in the things that I'm interested in than me. Because I'm
Right.
just like, man, I wish I was there. But also I'm like, I don't have time for that. I've got a good life generally, and I could work extra hard to make like Korean my whole personality. But like I got other things going on. I got a podcast, I got a job, I got a wife and all that kind of stuff. So
You do you fusion it up.
Well, it's like it's the envy, and then it's like it gives way to the thought of, am I enough? And then like I really feel like it's not even imposter syndrome. It's like I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And I feel like I haven't been like thinking that a lot, but I've been thinking about that a lot. And like my lack of connection to ethnic culture is making me feel not enough. And then like, especially and I think this is something I've been working through in therapy, has been like, I'm really capable, or I tell myself I'm very capable of giving advice, and I'm very capable of telling other adoptees, well, you are 100% more than enough. Like, you are always enough. But then how capable am I of taking that advice and internalizing it for myself? And I found that I've really struggled recently with that idea of this enoughness. And yeah.
I think it's interesting too that you say that, because I remember like that is reminiscent of some of our early conversations around just deciding that we are in fact Korean enough and we are Asian enough to be in these spaces, to be making this podcast, you know, like all those year one conversations about like all that imposter syndrome that we feel. And I remember distinctly, so like I know the feeling I get whenever an adoptee decides, yeah, I'm here, I'm good enough to be in my ethnic space, in my American space, in my adoptee space, like whatever that is. When they decide like they have moved through that imposter syndrome into the fullness of their identity, then you're like, yeah, I'm enough. And what I'm hearing you say, Patrick, is you're on level 2 of that, where it's like, well, so I've moved through like all this imposter syndrome, and what's left, I guess, beneath that surface is just me. Oh,
right. Yeah. 100%. That's the thing. I was just literally thinking about, like, I'm definitely know I'm Asian enough.
Yes.
And like, I know that like, I'm like all of these other things, and I accept all of that. But then I'm like, but am I like,
but now I'm on level 2.
I'm still like, I'm just like, am I enough?
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah. So again.
And is that our insecurities as adoptees? Is that something that
I think for me now, it's literally just this slow approach toward, and also fast approach towards parenthood. I think it's like, this has got me thinking a lot about these things that, again, especially, and again, coming back from Korea too, also kind of put me on this path of just really like rehashing all of this stuff. And because like, I'm going to be having these conversations in 2, 3, 6 years, you know, with another person, my first biological relation, you know, who is going to be mixed race and may very well be having a similar thought process in their head. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like, it's just like thinking, for whatever reason, I had like reached this, like you said, I'm on level 2. But for whatever reason, I thought when you completed level 1, like that was the level and you were done.
Yeah,
and, like,
you're like, no, I'm done. I'm in the next room, and that's the end. You're like, down there's a light, but I think that's like death. You're like, no, that's actually level 2. That's not the death door. That's the level 2 door.
It's like, I didn't think that I was like done growing, but like I thought I was just done with all of this. And
Patrick is like, I've peaked.
There are levels to this shit. So
I feel I've run into a few separate levels now too, with the fact that we've been doing this for 3 years and that we've moved further along in, you know, advocacy work or just talking within the community. I mean, my role at Con now, being a co-chair for next year's conference, I feel like I'm not enough at times, because I'm like, am I doing enough for the conference? Should I be doing enough to help other adoptees? Should I be doing enough, or am I doing enough to, you know, just even be able to talk about what other adoptees may want to talk about? I mean, outside of what we talk about on our show. So definitely have similar feelings there.
Wow, we really are branching out, because you've got Con, Patrick, you're doing Pan-Asian stuff. I'm hanging out with Dallas Asian Historical Society and NAP DFW, which is another Asian American thing. Yeah, look how far we've come.
First year
Level 2.
conversations, are we enough? Third year conversations, are we doing too much?
Are we? Well, it's not even that. It's
true.
Level 1, first year was, are we enough to do this podcast? Level 3, level 2 was like, are we enough to be doing all these extra things on top of the podcast?
I can totally see the next stage being, are we doing too much? That's so true.
Yeah, you're like,
are we doing too many things?
Overcommitted. We should. I feel like we just hit our stride, but we should probably take a break and go into.
We can take a break.
Some
we
food
got some
times.
snacky snacks.
Yeah.
I have something for our next solo, so I'll save it for then.
Put it on the board.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. Time to have a snack. Food. Food time. All right. We got something that I haven't seen before. It's called a white pie by Samjin, which I've never even heard of that brand before either. So, it literally looked. At first, I was like super excited because I didn't know what was in it. I just saw the photo on the front, and I was like, "Oh, this looks like a like a white chocolate outside with like a chocolatey inside."
Is it
I don't think
like red
So like
bean?
a pie.
I think it's red bean. Yeah, it's not chocolate. Sorry. But at
How
first
dare
I
you
was
get my hopes
super excited. I was super excited. I don't know because it looked really good, but it still looks good because I do like red
All right,
bean,
we're
but-
cutting it close.
We
January
are cutting it close.
2024.
I know 20. Oh, come on, that's 3 months away. We're good.
It feels
I'm glad
close.
that you guys made fun of me too on the last one, being not expired as well. The jellies.
Oh, jelly.
Thanks for checking. Thanks for checking on that one.
I remember what the
So-
topic was now. It was, what if I never started this journey? And maybe that's not a full episode topic, but I
Okay.
don't necessarily know if hypotheticals are worth having a conversation about, but I just remember it being, if we don't have to
It's a
get
good
into it, we're
question.
in the food time now.
We're in the
It's
food
a good
time.
question. It's okay. You can cut that.
So yeah,
No,
so
leave it in.
this based on the picture, it made me think it was like kind of like a powdered donut of
Mhm.
Red bean paste.
mochi sandwich cookie things. It's not powdered. It's more like a glaze, I guess.
It's heavy. So that's the other thing.
It
It's
is
just
she thick.
this this one little like pie is pretty heavy.
This looks like
White
a
pie.
like a coating,
dumpling.
I guess. Like a
Yeah, it does kind of look
dumpling.
like a dumpling. It
All
does
right.
feel full and dense. Yeah.
Well, the
Um,
last thing we had that was a red bean was actually not that bad.
Yeah, what
So
was that?
Here's to
That was
hoping
good.
this is good.
I don't know.
Smells like
Teen Spirit.
Play-Doh.
Man, I'm out.
Or no,
Okay.
what does it smell like?
I don't know. It smells really good. I got to get past the texture of it's like a mochi, not a cookie, which I thought it was going to be more of a cookie. It's
Tastes
more of
better
a
than I thought
mochi.
it was going to taste, to be honest.
Yeah.
It tastes more like a glazed donut than I thought it would.
Oh, it tastes like
Mm.
more of a candy than I thought it was going to taste like.
Yeah, interesting.
This is very
definitely
interesting.
different.
I don't hate it.
I don't love it, but I definitely don't hate it.
This is coming in. This is giving a real 2.5 energy right down the middle.
I mean,
It's got like an umami. I guess that's the red bean of it. Like it's got a savory umami
Yeah.
flavor to it.
mhm.
That is nice, and also my brain can't handle it.
It's an interest. It's got, I don't even know.
like it's
My
really
brain also
sweet.
cannot handle it.
The coating is really sweet. The glaze,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it feels like pure sugar, but it doesn't taste like sugar until the very end, or whatever
it's
the
al-
sweetness might be.
It's also
Maybe not
melting in my
sugar.
hands already.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Anytime you mail anything to me, if I'm not receiving it in December through February, it's melted.
Oh no.
I just recently got a Hershey's bar in the mail that
Oh.
was
Who's
disgusting.
mailing you chocolate
It was
Yeah.
from my work. It was like a fall, like there's like a bunch of things, but like
from your
It was-
work?
it was
They're in Texas.
no. From the team that's like based out of California. It's
Oh.
fully remote. It's a fully remote team. But yeah, it's like here's some like it was like a apple cider packet, some like plastic pumpkins, and like some candies. Like it's Halloween time, just like your fall kit. And all the chocolate was melted. All the
Like
Skittles
your
were melted
fail kit.
together. It was not great. The only thing to survive was a plastic. So
Great. Great for the environment.
anyways, yeah.
Anyways,
all
back
that
to
to
the-
say, mine are
the
also
pie.
very melty.
So
Mine was okay.
all right,
from a
you're
melt
already
standpoint.
finished, Patrick, as usual. What do you rate it?
I'm gonna give it a 3. It's a little above average. Very sweet. I feel like I've been saying this about a lot of snacks, but I don't really know what would make it better or what would make it worse than what the rating that I'm giving it. Like, I thought I wasn't gonna like it, but I didn't not like it, but I didn't love it. but I did not like it.
I'm so confused.
It was better than 2.5. So
Yes.
that's why I gave it a 3. But
Would
it was
you
not
eat
better
it?
than a 3.
Would you eat? Because I gave you what, 3 or
You
so?
gave me at least 2.
3. Okay.
I got 3.
I wanted you to share, with Emily, but
Oh yeah, I got 3 in here. I would eat another one.
I did
I'm not
eat
gonna eat another one tonight.
oh, KJ had 2. There you go.
That was maybe a bad decision
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. If I had a
because
second one.
it was more sweet. Like I said, it's more sweet than I anticipated. And then the second one was like, this is definitely too much sweetness in my stomach. So, I'm gonna give it a.
Yep.
I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Which anytime I see, this is probably a little unfair, but anytime I see one of these like red bean mooncakey type things, it just starts at a 2 for me, just slightly below average, below the middle. So it did elevate its rating because I feel like overall it's good, but it's really sweet, and then the savory of the red bean or whatever mung bean maybe, it's like really throwing me. And now my stomach hurts. So there we go.
I'm glad I
2.5.
didn't eat the second one now.
I just don't eat sweets. Like my stomach doesn't love when I eat a lot of sweets.
And we've had
So-
multiple sweet treats in a row now.
Yeah, and I always eat all of them. Oh, like the gummies? I
Yeah.
ate all of them, or I ate
dang.
too many, and then my stomach hurt. So
Yeah,
I am
that's
a
lot of
child.
gummies.
I
Okay.
am a child.
Well, our next treat down the road, I think, will be savory, so that's good. I agree. I think I like mochi, so I'm used to the consistency of it. But if there's
Oh, yeah,
anybody out
consistency
there
is
that
good.
does not like a consistency, a firm, dense rice flour type consistency, you might not like this. For me, I've had a lot of mochi. I like soft mochi, like the Japanese soft mochi.
oh,
This
not
is
like
kind of
the,
like a
Trader
hard-
Joe's mochi
Yeah.
nuggets.
Or the ones that are just, fresh, or the ones that I've had in soups and things like that. This is kind of like, I don't know, it's like a firm, somewhere between a mochi and a jelly, like a gelatinous, like jelly kind of thing. So it's a little too hard for me. So that part I don't really like. But the flavor, the smell, everything was great on that. So I'm going to follow Patrick and go give it a 3. Little bit above average. I would eat it again, but I wouldn't eat a whole bag of it. So
Wouldn't eat a whole bag.
if it's like an Oreo, you might eat like 3 or 4 of them. So, but
If it's an
All right.
Oreo, I mean that whole sleeve.
The whole sleeve.
yeah, that's
Whole
I think I
3
like.
rows.
If it's oh, you're having the whole
The whole
container?
thing. Yeah.
No, I'm having one sleeve, dunking it in milk, even
Ew,
though my
no
stomach's
milk.
gonna what?
No
That's
milk.
Milk's favorite cookie.
No milk. I'm twisting every single one of them off. Hopefully, only one side has all the cream filling on it.
And what? You just throw the other side out?
No, I ate
Yeah.
both of them.
Oh
But I
my
ate one of
gosh!
them at a time.
I can't believe you don't eat Oreos with milk. Wow.
I'm not a big milk person. I love
Wow.
ice cream, but
What? Are
I'm
you?
not a
I don't
milk
eat.
from the
I don't eat
Midwest?
Oreos with milk either. Sorry,
Not a big milk.
Yeah.
Wow, guys.
neither am I. Sorry.
It's probably because my dad's from Wisconsin.
Mhm.
But come on, it's Milk's favorite cookie.
is it?
But
Yeah.
but is milk the cookie's favorite drink? Sorry, I don't know where I was going with that.
All right.
Okay,
We should wrap it up. If you want to call in and say whether or not you take your Oreos with milk, you can do so at 972-677-8867. Otherwise, you can just hit us up at our email, janchishow@gmail.com, or on our socials. We're at Janchi Show on all of our platforms. I really need to know what our listeners' like milk cookie situation, milk Oreo situation is. So please do that. Otherwise, if you just generally want to support the show, you can do so by going to janchishow.com/support. Also, tell your friends about the show. Also, please leave a rating or review wherever you can do that on your podcast player of things. That helps the algorithm say like, hey, this podcast is good. We should make other people pay attention to it. And thus, you spread the good news of the Janchi Show far and wide.
Hooray.
And we thank you for your support.
Yeah. What else? What else is going on? You can hang out with Nathan on the Facebook after party, or just generally, I guess, on Facebook. I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually
on there.
don't. Yeah.
I'm on there.
That's it for the show, right? Did I hit everything?
Yeah, your personal.
Yeah.
you do the
can,
social media?
yeah. You can hang out with me at KJ Relke, wherever I want to be found on the internet. Also, just in case Patrick missed it again, we're at Janchi Show for the social for the show.
Did I miss it?
I don't know.
No,
Oh,
I
also,
don't
you
know.
can buy merch if you want to buy merch.
Yeah.
Thank you. Once we get that up and running, is it running now?
It's running now.
Oh,
It's
sweet.
running now.
Thank you. Thanks, AJ, for bringing that to our attention too. I am
His
N
name is
Nowak
KJ.
on AJ.
I'm
This
just kidding.
just in,
I'm just
Sarah
kidding.
doesn't like the mochi.
Oh,
so.
there you go.
This just
All right.
in. Thanks, Sarah.
Flash news.
Voice of the
I'm
show.
N Nowak on Instagram.
And I am Patrick in the World on the Instagram.
Didn't even finish it.
Didn't even finish it.
Dang.
-2.5.
All right. Good talk. Good
Yeah,
snack.
anyways, thanks for hanging
Good
out with us,
talk.
everyone. And
Thanks for
until
listening, everyone.
next
Next week.
Janchi.
Janchi.
I hit it.
Oh, so early.
I hit it. I hit the button.
It did come quicker.
It came a
All
little
right.
quick.
Janchi Heyo!